From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 2 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk. The McLaughlin Group is brought to you by MetLife. Guarantees for the if in life.
Issue 1, Obama the Charmer.
The Nobel Prize-winning African-American author Toni Morrison famously observed about Bill Clinton, quote, "This is our first black president, blacker than any actual black person who could ever be elected in our children's lifetime." Do you think Bill Clinton was our first black president?
I would have to, investigate more, Bill's dancing abilities and, some of this other stuff before I accurately judged whether he was in fact a brother.
We know that Bill Clinton has saxophone skills. Obama's long suit may be dancing and charming.
All right, you got to lay down.
Question, how do you account for Obama's wondrous charm, Pappy Cow?
Oh, I don't know whether it's nature or nurture, John, but there's no doubt about it. Obama's persona, his sense of humor, his sense of laughter, that he's a very likable, charming character is what gives him, I think, a cross-party, cross-ideological appeal, despite the fact that he's situated right over there on the left. I think it's his best quality, it's his most effective political asset, as Reagan's persona was. And what he wants to do is preserve it and not lose it by getting into some kind of bloody battle, which they're trying to draw him into, Hillary Clinton's trying to draw him into, or get into this race ethic argument. He ought to stay above it, beyond it, use that sense of humor every time he's hit. Frankly, turn the other cheek a little bit. I think he'll do just fine.
You think it's more due to the fact that he's a fresh face, Eleanor, and people are tired of politicians who are...
Well, there are a lot of fresh faces that come to Washington that don't get, in effect, drafted for president.
They remain fresh.
Right, exactly. He has a sense of style and grace. He also has a superb intellect. And he has a biography and a resume that is very different at a time when I think Americans are really angry and disgusted with the traditional political class. I think Bill Clinton was right when he said a vote for Obama is a roll of the dice, because we really don't know that much about him. But I think the American people are ready for a roll of the dice. Hillary Clinton, John McCain are more of the same, and I think he has come along at a time in our history where he does seem to match the moment.
Have you heard it said that Obama's resume is somewhat thin, and this charm goes a long way? In fact, it covers completely that hiatus.
That's largely true, but Barack Obama does have the gift. He's got the natural gift. They used to say this about Bill Clinton. Some people still do. Charisma can carry somebody very far. In fact, when you look back at Hollywood history, there were a lot of movies like The Candidate with Robert Redford, The Distinguished Gentleman, that satirized this idea that charisma and charisma alone can carry a candidate into office. The question is that charisma matched by real substance and real ideas and real ability? The most charismatic presidents of the second half of the 20th century, JFK, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, they all had that natural gift, but they were able to match that gift with ideas and a policy agenda that matched the moment in the country, which is what Eleanor is talking about. I think Barack Obama may in fact have all of those attributes.
Can you speak to this matter?
Well, John, people will be writing books for years about this, I think, and the Obama phenomenon. Having followed him since I first met him when he was first running for the state senate back in Illinois, I, like everybody else, was struck by what a great first impression he makes, and people don't seem to get tired of him. I mean, it's rather remarkable.
Obama mania is something like Beatlemania?
There's a touch of that. I mean, I remember when I was like 10 and JFK was running for office down southern Ohio where I was living, and the campaigners talked about the jumpers. Who were they? Those were the young women and girls in the crowd who kept jumping up and down. You could see them out there because they just wanted to get a glimpse of him. You see that with Obama. People talking about people fainting in his crowds and that kind of thing. But, you know, I will say this, though. He has this tightrope that he walks because, as in your video there, when he's smiling, when he's loose, having a good time, he's very charming, very engaging. But he really wants to be serious. He wants to be taken seriously. And I sometimes wish he would smile a little more. But sometimes he seems too stoic and too removed. And this is something that those have been seeing him for a long time in Illinois. Like anybody, he gets mad, but he doesn't want to lose his cool. That's the Chicago thing.
Right.
You don't want to lose your cool.
I think he has to prove that he's tough enough. I think there's still a question mark over that. And I also think that the charisma has been sort of the lead attribute, and sometimes people think, well, is there really substance to match it? And I think he has not yet related to lunch bucket Democrats, and he's got to do that in Pennsylvania.
I think he does, John, but it's also, remember what they said? I think he's got to relate to him. I think he's got to get more substantive. I think he's going to have a rough time in the fall. But I do think, you remember with John Lindsay when he was running back in 1965?
Mayor of New York.
Mayor of New York. The theme was, he is fresh and they are tired.
Right,
and frankly, that's a good description.
Well, with 8 months to go, do you think Obama's going to get us the tired look too?
Well, I think he's got a rough time ahead because you got a number of weeks still left before Pennsylvania. And you got 6 months to the convention, 2 months. I think the Republicans are going to go to work on this guy in an uninhibited way.
So you're handing him the nomination by the tone of your remarks suggests that you think he's got the nomination.
I think he's the front runner, and unless he loses the popular vote, he wins the nomination.
He has got to protect his brand. That is his challenge over the next 8 months, assuming he gets the nomination here. The brand is that he is affable, he is charming, he's got a good sense of humor, self-effacing sense of humor. Even when he's pushed up against the wall, when Hillary is pressing every last button, his response is very measured and tempered. He usually does it with a wry smile in his voice. The last time we heard any fierceness in his voice was when Hillary suggested, oh, perhaps he might be my number 2, when in fact he's in the number 1 position. So the gall of her to offer that, his response had more toughness, I think, and more steel in it than anything we've seen before, and still he delivered it with a sense of humor.
Well, if you look over the histories of the 45 presidents of the United States, 43, but some had second term, blah, 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 blah.
Minor technicalities.
Asterisks. More of this data preoccupation if you can. What I want to know is, don't you find that more of them, by far, had far less charm, whether political charm or social charm, than Barack Obama? You take the man you work for, Nixon.
Here's why that's true, John. We have moved into the television age.
Celebrity.
Well, not simply the television age. I mean, you take George Washington, some of those gentlemen, they could not have survived in the television age.
How about Calvin Coolidge?
Jack could have made it for you. He's the print type age, John.
Right.
But you got Jack Kennedy, you got the TV age, and all the candidates now got to have that ability to communicate in some way, work on it, look into that screen, and if they don't got
Abraham Lincoln would have been a disaster.
I think a lot of those guys would have been wiped out by this.
Yeah, but Nixon won in '72 because the Democrats were tarred with the Vietnam War and the party was divided over the war. So sometimes there are issues that tear a party apart. It's not all personality that can carry you to election.
Exit question we got to get out. Is enthusiasm for Obama a fad, Buchanan?
Yes, it's a fad. The question is, can it endure through November? I don't think it can. I really think they're going to go to work on him in these next 6 months and the 2 months after that, and I think they're going to bloody him up pretty bad.
Are you calling it a Hillary win?
No, I'm saying I think if I had to bet on the nominee, I would bet on Obama right now.
You go back and forth.
Well, the polls go back and forth.
The states go
Is that what we have on this thing?
No.
A poll watcher?
Yeah.
No. We want the Buchanan insight.
Yeah.
The Buchanan insight is Obama
The
probably
Buchanan
wins.
frankness. You know?
What was the question? That Republicans
Is it a fad?
Republicans are going to go to work on him. I think he can handle it. And if you compare it to Beatlemania, the Beatles did pretty well. They're still gold records, and they're still in our consciousness. So I think he endures.
Pat and Eleanor are right that Republicans are going to jump on him, and now the press is onto him. So he's going to get the screws put to him by the press, who feel some embarrassment that they haven't put the screws to him earlier. But I don't think it's a fad. that. I think it is sustainable because of the character and the charisma that we've been talking about, and also the sense of liberal guilt or white guilt, whatever you want to or label it. People don't want to ascribe anything negative to him. They want him to remain this perfect package.
Do you hear it said that Obama is always grasping for the next rung in the ladder?
Well, who isn't, right? I mean, Hillary Clinton is not without ambition herself.
But these are stepping stones. Even the Senate was a stepping stone.
Well, there's one thing about, to get to the presidency, that's what you do. He either gets criticized for that or for not having enough experience. You can't have it both ways. But this is not a fad, except, every campaign, the candidate goes through image makeovers and image changes, some that the candidate makes himself or herself and some that are imposed upon them. One thing I noticed in the poll, Texas and Ohio, for example, it was asked which candidate attacked the other unfairly, and most thought Hillary Clinton attacked Obama unfairly than thought Obama did, and yet Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in both states. And you could see, reading the statistics, that Obama pays more of a price when he is perceived as attacking than Hillary Clinton, where we have different expectations.
Well,
and so that's the kind of thing that's a tough road for him to walk.
Puff around his knuckles when he administers the punch.
Right.
But his punches are pretty punchy.
But it's better if his surrogates make the punches than if he does.
I think that it's a fad, and I think it's a resilient fad, and he is resilient. The question of is he sufficiently resilient to ride it all the way through another 8 months?
Right.
What's
the definition
of
a fad? 6 months, 1 year?
The answer remains to be seen. When we come back, Ralph Nader, save us.
As the world grows smaller, the ifs are now bigger than ever. If retirement savings can't keep pace with longer lives, if inflation sends the cost of employee benefits higher. For over 135 years, MetLife has provided insurance guarantees for life's many ifs. We have the experience, global resources, and vision to provide financial certainties for an uncertain world. No wonder more than 2/3 of the Fortune 500 choose us. After all, we are MetLife.
SAP has solutions for mid-sized companies? I'm gonna need some time to come to terms with this whole thing. Okay, I'm good.
The SAP solution my mid-sized company needs can be up and running quickly? Don't toy with me.
Issue 2, Darth Nader strikes again.
I have decided to run for president.
This is Nader's 5th run for president, and he says it's with cause. The American people today are steeped in pessimism, even cynicism.
24% of the American people are satisfied with the state of the country. That's about the lowest ranking ever. 61% think both major parties are failing. 80% will consider voting for an independent this year.
Here's what Ralph hopes to accomplish. First, get more independent candidates up for election.
Third parties and independent candidates. A diverse, multiple choice, multiple party democracy, the way they have in Western Europe and Canada.
Nader says historically it was the small independent parties who have turned our nation around on its most critical issues, like slavery.
To recognize historically the great issues have come in our history against slavery, women's rights to vote, and worker and farmer progressives through little parties that never won any national election.
Nader wants to get more people to vote. Over 1/3 of eligible U.S. voters failed to vote in 2004.
Open the doorways to try to get better ballot access.
Nader says that the White House and the Congress should not be controlled by two parties alone.
All of us who think that the country needs an infusion of freedom, democracy, choice, dissent, so just sit on the sidelines and watch the two parties own all the voters.
I want to get into some of those substantive points he raises. But first of all, if Nader is serious about building a third party, why doesn't he run for an office he might win, like a seat in the Congress?
Well, you name what would that seat be? I think he lives in the District of Columbia. I don't think there's an available seat that he could run for. I don't think that avenue is open to him. Look, I have a lot of respect for what Ralph Nader did in the past, in the distant past, and I think he makes a good case here about things that are wrong with our system. But the practical impact of his candidacy is to damage the chances of a Democrat. And I think Tom Towles, the cartoonist for the Washington Post, captured it well when he showed an aging Ralph Nader and the caption saying, "Unsafe at any speed." He may be slowed down, but he's still a dangerous political commodity if you want progressives to win in this country.
Look, I'm in agreement with Ralph Nader in this sense. Ralph Nader's exactly right. This system, we have a duopoly here. There's huge numbers of Americans utterly unrepresented. In the Republican Party, it is the conservatives who don't like NAFTA, who want the border secured and don't like intervention. And we're utterly unrepresented by McCain. And the two parties work back and forth, trading power. So I wish him well, John. And look, the progressives, not only the progressives, but also Norman Thomas ran 6 times. Eventually, his entire platform became the Democratic Party platform. So I think the outsiders, some of these fellows, I think they perform a real service in the country, giving voice to folks who don't have one.
Do you think that Nader's right on the money when he says a diverse, multiple choice, multiple party democracy, the way they have in Western Europe and Canada, is what we need to have in the United States? It's beyond the choice between two parties.
Yeah, but the system is built against that. I mean, if Michael Bloomberg, who would have been the obvious choice for a third party run this time around, thought that he couldn't win, and he was only polling 6% in the states that mattered, and he chose not to win, not to run with unlimited resources, how in the world is an outside guy like Ralph Nader going to have any hope of winning?
He wants the system to change. Is the system ever going to change?
The system is not going to change, not anytime soon. And Ralph Nader, you know, is sort of like fish and overnight guests. After the third day, they start to
stink. Is the system lousy?
And you can see that. Well, you can see that the Democrats are annoyed by this, and the Republicans are saying, "Bring it on." But the reality is that Ralph Nader this time is not going to have an effect.
Yes, it is.
You must think the founders were not brilliant in deciding not to have a parliamentary system, because if we'd done that, then we'd be like Canada or Israel or Britain or whatever. But the American tradition just stands against that. Americans really like simplicity. You know what? Americans like simplicity in that regard. They seem to, because it does slow things down. Ideas of either extreme don't get through so quickly.
But the downside
inside a party. What you need, the third party doesn't work. We tried that. What you need is a revolution inside a party, like the Goldwater Revolution, and to take the party over and overthrow an establishment.
Yeah.
Frankly, when one party gets wiped out, very often it's a good thing.
We're waiting for the Buchanan brigades to come back here. But look, the downside of all the choice of all these parties is these countries have great difficulty forming coalitions. So that's not perfect either.
And the reality is, in America, the only way you get the birth of a real third party is to have some cataclysmic social or political or cultural thing happening in the country that gives rise to it.
See that coming?
No.
I think that was happening. As soon as I saw Pat Buchanan and Ralph Nader on the same podium at anti-globalism marches, I knew the world was shifting.
Nader denies that he was a spoiler in 2000.
Not George Bush, not the Democrats in Congress, not the voters who voted for George Bush, but they were Democrats in Florida, 250,000 of them. You know, I wish you'd have Al Gore on this program and ask him, why did you not become president in 2000? And I think what he's going to tell you is he thought he did win Florida, but it was taken from him before, during, and after the election from Tallahassee.
Question. Nader ran for president in 2000, challenging fellow Democrat Al Gore. Did he drain votes away from Gore that cost Gore the presidency? I ask you, Monica.
Yes, he did. He ran a significant enough race and drew enough voters because there was this pull for a real message that Nader was representing. And he did, in fact, cost Gore election when you look at the state-by-state results, including in the state of Florida.
Could he be a spoiler for Hillary?
Not this time around, no.
You don't think
he's overstayed his welcome. He's a skunk at the garden party.
Well, let's say Hillary gets the nomination.
He will run stronger than John.
and those who voted for Obama are angry that she got the nomination, and they say, "Forget about you, Hillary. I'm going to go with Nader." You don't think that hurts her?
No, I don't think it's. I don't think it's going to be a significant enough effect by Ralph Nader to have
it
that.
Doesn't have to be. It could be a rejection of the nominee.
John, I think you're right. I think you're right. If Hillary is the nominee, the African Americans, the young, the liberals are going to be very disillusioned.
Right.
I think a lot of them will stay home, but some of them will vote for Nader. And given the fact that would be a close election,
could it work the other way?
He could sink her.
Could Obama be the spoiler?
No, I think Obama's strong where Nader is strong, and I think he will eclipse Nader.
Well, suppose
there are a lot of black folks who are still mad at Nader.
To get the nomination are mad, and they vote for Nader.
If Hillary,
then he doesn't get Hillary's vote.
If Hillary
they'll vote for McCain.
If Hillary,
they'll vote for McCain. Yeah. McCain's the winner.
If Hillary has the nomination, she will win, but very narrowly. She's polarizing. She can't afford to lose a couple of 100,000 votes anywhere, and I think.
So Nader could do real damage?
Nader poses a danger, unsafe at any speed.
That's a question on a balance scale. Is it a good thing or a bad thing to have Nader in the running this year, Pat Buchanan?
It's a good thing.
Hello.
It's negative. Thwarting the will of the people.
I think it's a
thwarting the will of the people.
I think let a million.
draining votes away and costing the majority candidate.
The people voluntarily vote for it.
We got a private little kibitz going on here.
No sidebar. No sidebar.
Okay.
No sidebar. No, I think Nader should run, and so should Ron Paul. In fact, somebody ought to see what Ross Perot's doing.
I think it's wonderful that he's running. Issue 3: speak English or go away.
For over 200 years, America has thrived on diversity, a rich amalgam of different races, cultures, languages, religions. Immigrants are the bedrock of this amalgam. Multilingual immigrants speaking Russian, French, German, Portuguese, Spanish, Japanese, Italian, Celtic, Chinese, Danish, Norwegian, Eskimo, and of course, English. Thanks to immigrants, we have become the wealthiest nation on earth and the most powerful. So why not leave things the way they are? We now have 2 bills, one in the Senate and its twin in the House, that if enacted would create an official single language for our multilingual population. That language is English. Neither of the Democratic presidential candidates like that idea. Senator Obama opposes it passionately.
This is the kind of question that is designed precisely to divide us. You're right. Everybody is going to learn to speak English if they live in this country. The issue is not whether or not future generations of immigrants are going to learn English. The question is, how can we come up with both a legal, sensible immigration policy?
Senator Clinton also says that English ought not be made the official language of the U.S. She does so for the same reasons that Obama does, and on additional grounds.
The problem is that if it becomes official instead of recognized as national, which indeed it is our national language. If it becomes official, that means in a place like New York City, you can't print ballots in any other language. That means you can't have government pay for translators in hospitals, so when somebody comes in with some sort of emergency, there's nobody there to help translate what their problem is for the doctor.
Be that as it may, English as an official language has many defenders, notably Yale law professor and author Amy Chua. A common language is critical to cohesion and national identity in an ethnically diverse society. Americans of all backgrounds should be encouraged to speak more languages. I forced my own daughters to learn Mandarin, minus the threat of chopsticks. But offering Spanish language public education to Spanish-speaking children is the wrong kind of indulgence. Native language education should be overhauled, and more stringent English proficiency requirements for citizenship should be set up.
Is it divisive, as Obama says, for English to be declared an official language?
I think it is if you don't define how you're going to enforce it and in what areas. Then you get in those complications Hillary Clinton was referring to, like ballots, emergency
well,
uses,
are you against it or for it?
Well, you know, English is our official language. Let's face it,
it's
just day to day.
Exactly.
And believe me, there's more people trying to learn English in this country than trying to learn another language, which is a problem. More people should be learning other languages. And that's fine what Chua said. You can do that without declaring English to be the official language.
He almost says it should be a condition for immigration.
You can do that without making it the official language.
John, we're going to have 130 million Hispanics here by the middle of the century. If we don't have one national language, an official language, you will have two countries.
Will English remain? Will it remain as the common language, or will it be displaced by another language?
If we don't enforce it, it will not.
Eleanor, do you think it will be displaced, or will we continue to have English?
No, common language. And learning English, every immigrant who comes here in search of a better economic life knows they have to learn English and get by in English.
But they're not compelled to do so.
They are if they take a citizenship test.
If they want to get a job.
Yeah, if they want to get a job.
The language is not colonize. Immigrants colonize. The Irish did it. They stay among themselves. They keep repeating their language.
You got out in public after a while, John. I mean, I think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it was basically English we were speaking.
Not if you got 130 million of them.
All the kids are learning.
Please note that we are not doing this show in Spanish. This has been a huge hole in this busted up immigration approach that we have in this country. We should say, look, if you want to come to America, we're happy to have you on two conditions. One, you do it legally, and two, you assimilate. And part of that assimilation is learning English and being required to speak the language as the official language.
I like it, but I'd like to see it stated. But you must learn English.
You know what they did?
How are you going to enforce it, Monica? You're going to go out with the husband.
Exactly. And what you find with Latinos, as with previous waves of immigrants, is the parents may speak another language, but the kids are all learning English. Sometimes the kids are serving as translators in the house. So over time, the problem Pat points out is self-correcting.
I agree with Walter Cronkite. We need English as an official language. We'll be right back with predictions. How do you like me?
The McLaughlin Group is brought to you by Grant Thornton. Find out how it feels to work with people who love what they do.
What has made Grant Thornton one of the largest accounting organizations in the world, with resources in more than 100 countries worldwide? Is it their expertise and partner involvement, global capabilities, and extraordinary audit, tax, and advisory services? Or is it their passion for how they serve their clients? Grant Thornton. Find out what it's like to work with people who love what they do.
As the world grows smaller, the ifs are now bigger than ever. If retirement savings can't keep pace with longer lives, if inflation sends the cost of employee benefits higher. For over 135 years, MetLife has provided insurance guarantees for life's many ifs. We have the experience, global resources, and vision to provide financial certainties for an uncertain world. No wonder more than 2/3 of the Fortune 500 choose us. After all, we are MetLife.
Fourth prediction. Who wins the nomination?
Obama, probably.
John McCain. You didn't say which one.
You're treacherous.
Very clever.
Quickly.
Barack Obama.
Obama's got the momentum.
Hillary. Bye-bye.